This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
So when you're a boxing fan and a boxing news uploader, one who champions for certain fighters, ones who, such as myself, that I will show bias towards certain fighters and of course with nationality bias as well. And it's something that I've never hidden behind. I've always said, yeah, I'm biased and I will be biased going forward and I will forever be biased. Okay, so it's nothing new. It's not breaking news or anything. So it is kind of weird when I still see comments, even now, 3 years in, people go, oh, Sporting Icons, you're so biased. I mean, well done, Sherlock Holmes. You solved the case. Have yourself a happy meal. I don't know what it is by calling me biased you hope to achieve anyway. I don't know what that is. Yes, I'm biased. I've always said so. And especially when it's fighters that I like and I interact with and I speak to on a personal basis, like Dillian White, for example. But either way, all that aside, when things don't go well for the night at the office for fighters, so for example, that I champion and many of you guys champion and other uploaders champion, you're going to get backlash and it's fair game. Of course it is. But what I did expect it was going to be from a small section of the Tyson Fury fans, because majority of Tyson Fury fans, we all sing from the same hymn sheet. You know, we support Tyson Fury, we support Anthony Joshua, we support Dillian White, we support our Brits. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, if any of these guys were to clash, we're going to choose a side. Okay, most Tyson Fury fans will go, you know what, I like Dillian White, I like Anthony Joshua, but I believe Tyson Fury is the man. And that's all cool. But unfortunately, he does have a small section of fan base that is just downright haters of anything that does not have the Fury name. They use Tyson Fury as a way to express their own flaws and natural hate in life. And I have done a video separate to that one, so hopefully they all go and watch that one and your feelings are guaranteed to be hurt if you are a fanatical Fury fan and hate on everything in the world. But what I didn't expect was to see the re-emergence of the Deontay Wilder fanatical fan base. I did not expect to see some of you guys. I really didn't. I mean, again, Wilder, just like Fury, he has excellent fans. He has some very real fans where they say, okay, cool, Wilder, he lost to Fury. Hey, no worries. We've always known that he's limited. Hopefully he gets him back in a rematch. That's what they say. These are the true Wilder fans, where they will support him through thick and thin. But there is a small section of Deontay Wilder fans who have no room to be criticising, mocking, jeering, laughing about any other fighter on the planet after what happened with Deontay Wilder. Now, I've had to flick these guys in the balls quite a few times over the past couple of years and forever keep putting them back in their box. That's kind of how I grew my channel in many ways, by exposing the sheer fallacies of some of their mindsets. So we're going to have to do it again. Now, for you guys, as in the small section of Deontay Wilder fans, the fanatical haters, you guys have no room to criticize and mock anybody. So when you come to my channel after hiding in the shadows for the amount of time that you have to suddenly appear now, I don't know what it is that you hope to achieve. Now, we kind of know some of their mindset that no matter what goes on, they try and twist it and turn it as a positive towards Deontay Wilder, as in people should give Deontay Wilder credit for something that he had absolutely nothing to do with. So Alexander Povetkin, he beats Dillian White. Somehow that equates to a Deontay Wilder, how great Deontay Wilder is. I mean, how do you even come up with this is beyond me. We know that you guys, ever since Tyson Fury absolutely destroyed Wilder, you guys have reached into your bucket of excuses and just randomly pulled some absolute doozies out of your bucket. It's unbelievable. I mean, I've got a pretty good imagination, but I couldn't even come up with some of the crap that you guys have come up with. But ultimately, what's Povetkin defeating Dillian White got to do with Deontay Wilder? And the way that they try and do it is a case of, see, if an old man, Alexander Povetkin, can do that to Dillian White, what do you think Deontay Wilder would have done? Well, first of all, Povetkin is a skilled heavyweight. Wilder is not. Second of all, Povetkin landed a peach of a uppercut. When's the last time that you've seen Deontay Wilder throw an uppercut, let alone knock somebody out with an uppercut? The way that Deontay Wilder knocks people out is with the big right hand, whether it be a straight one, a hook, or most usually a hit on the back of the head with the wrists. That's what Wilder does. So there is no real comparison. The only thing that I can draw a comparison to Povetkin and White, where Deontay Wilder is concerned, is that Dillian White, Povetkin, actually fought each other. They actually risked it. Something that Wilder's never done. And White and Povetkin are two guys that Wilder should have fought, but didn't. Did everything that he could to avoid both fighters. We know the whole thing with Dillian White. Anybody, even the most hardcore Deontay Wilder fans, can see that Wilder did everything that he could to not fight Dillian White. He even got the WBC on his side to freeze Dillian White out. With Alexander Povetkin, again, I'm surprised how many people don't know this, because even now people still run with this story, which is that Deontay Wilder, of course, he was ordered to fight his mandatory at the time in 2016, I think it was, against Alexander Povetkin. The PBC, Deontay Wilder, lost the purse bid, so they had to go to Russia to defend his new title against Alexander Povetkin. But yet people want to say how, well, Wilder, he was willing to go to Russia, so therefore let's give him credit. Well, he wasn't willing to go to Russia. He had no choice. He lost the purse bid, Mr. $50 million in the bag. But Wilder, he came to England, Sheffield to be precise, to finish off his training camp, get used to the time zones before he went over to Russia. And right before the fight, Povetkin had an adverse finding in his VADA sample, okay, his PED test. So there was an adverse finding. Before the B sample was drawn, before any kind of investigation was drawn up, Wilder boarded the very first plane from Sheffield and went all the way back to Alabama, refused to fight Povetkin. Now, it was then proved that Povetkin did not fail a PED test and the fight should have went ahead. How do we know this one? Because Povetkin sued Team Wilder and won. Okay, yes, Povetkin did serve a ban, but it wasn't for the Wilder fight. It was for the Bermane-Stiverne fight. Okay, so again, if you want to call Povetkin a drug cheat, that's fine, but it had nothing to do with Wilder. It was about Bermane-Stiverne. Fact, not opinion. So Povetkin and White, both two guys that Deontay Wilder avoided. So that's kind of really the only kind of link. Other ones will say, now we see why Dillian White, he avoided Luis Ortiz, because he got knocked out by old man Povetkin. Well, first of all, Dillian White offered Luis Ortiz $2 million to go fight him at the O2 Arena. Luis Ortiz said no. He wanted to fight on the Wilder Fury Part 1 undercard in Los Angeles. So there's that one. Again, these guys don't want to hear about all that bit. But Alexander Povetkin is younger than Luis Ortiz. Officially younger. Probably much younger. But officially, he is actually younger. Povetkin is a former standout amateur Olympic gold. World Championship gold. European gold, Eurasia gold, all kinds of gold, loads and loads of gold as an amateur, okay? Luis Ortiz, while he did have a hell of a lot of fights, won absolutely nothing. Didn't even qualify for the Olympic Games. I know, again, there seems to be this kind of narrative that Luis Ortiz went to the Olympics. No, he didn't. Luis Ortiz did go to the Olympics, but it was early 1980s Luis Ortiz fighting at a much, much, much smaller weight class. So it's not the same Luis Ortiz. It's amazing how people just miss the fine details of that one. But either way, Luis Ortiz never even qualified for the Olympics, let alone win a medal. Povetkin is a former world heavyweight champion. Luis Ortiz is not. Luis Ortiz's best win on his resume is Bryant Jennings. Povetkin has an outstanding resume, a resume that all heavyweights out there would like to have, or most at least anyway. Povetkin has a stellar resume and has always been very, very dangerous, okay? Now, none of this has got to do anything with Wilder, outside of the fact, again, these people, they want to criticise Dillian White, but Dillian White, he hasn't been sitting on his number one position like Deontay Wilder did before he got his world heavyweight title shot. In fact, Deontay Wilder's fight before he fought Bermane-Stiverne, of all people, for the WBC title was against Jason Gavin. And previous to that, some absolute journeymen, some light heavyweights, some cruiserweights. These are the kind of guys that he was fighting. Wilder never risked it. In fact, even as a champion, he never risked it. He was defending his belt against a Artur Spilka, a Eric Molina, a Johan Duapa, and all these kind of guys, Gerald Washington and so forth. So even as champion, Wilder weren't doing what Dillian White done. Dominic Brazil, when he became mandatory, again, he shouldn't have become, but when he became mandatory, what happened? He sat on his number one position and fought once in 18 months against a journeyman. So all these kind of people, they do sit on their position. Dillian White didn't sit on his position. Dillian White risked it against some of the top fighters out there. Dillian White, who's only had 7 amateur fights. Dillian White, who's been learning on the job. So as a pro and amateur combined, he's only had, 35, 36 fights combined. So he's learning on the job, yet he's been risking it. He's been taking on the Derek Chisoras, the Oscar Rivases, the Alexander Povetkins, the Joseph Parkers. We can even throw in the mix Robert Helenius, who just recently knocked out Adam Kalnacki. Dillian White fought him and beat him. So Dillian White, whether you like him, whether you don't, you have to give him credit for at least risking it and not just sitting on his number 1 position, okay? Yes, okay, he got knocked out, but he was handling Povetkin quite comfortably, even knocked down Povetkin twice in round number 4. How many people can say that they even knocked down Povetkin once in a fight, let alone twice? And he got caught from a big punch. It's heavyweight boxing. You want to call Alexander Povetkin old, Wilder fans? What about Luis Ortiz, who's older than Povetkin, had Wilder out on his feet like Bambi legs in round number 7 of their first fight? Even Wilder said with his own mouth afterwards, like a few months later when he was looking back on that fight, when he watched the replay, he said, when Ortiz had me there, I'm surprised the referee didn't stop the fight. At the time in the fight, I didn't think that way, but looking at the footage, I'm surprised he didn't. And had the referee stepped in, I wouldn't have a leg to stand on. So again, this older Luis Ortiz had your guy out on his feet. In the rematch, this old man, who's older than Povetkin, won every second of every round against Deontay Wilder. This non-Olympian, this failure as a pro, this failure as an amateur, boxed the ears off Deontay Wilder. Wilder was scared to death of Luis Ortiz. And what happened? He landed one big punch. It's heavyweight boxing. It happens. Wilder, your guy who cherry-picked Tyson Fury, who's been out of the game for 3 years, for 2 cab drivers, went over to Los Angeles, boxed Deontay Wilder's ears off and had to screw him to a draw. And in the rematch, he comprehensively battered, destroyed Deontay Wilder to the point that they had to throw in the towel. And what happened? You guys reached into your bucket of excuses and were pulling out some absolute doozies. Tyson Fury, he had loaded gloves. Tyson Fury had no padding in his gloves. I mean, could you be more contradictory? He's either got loaded gloves or he's got no padding in his gloves. Which one is it? You can't have both. They spiked Wilder's water, even though he passed farther. The costume was too heavy. A member of Team Fury spoke to Durrell, and Durrell convinced Mark Breeden to throw in the towel. You see, so many pathetic excuses. Joshua, he didn't come out with any kind of excuses. Dillian White, he come out and said, listen, he caught me with one good punch. It's heavyweight boxing. No excuses. I'll get him in a rematch. Much like Joshua said, hey, let's give Andy Ruiz Jr. credit. And he was telling the likes of me to stop coming out with some kind of conspiracy theories. Don't worry about it, he says. I'll get him back in a rematch. Wilder, what's he done? He come out on social media, your king is still here, your king is this, and your king will be back, and your king. And you guys go, yeah, okay, king. Okay, king, we love you, king. In other words, he's calling you a peasant, and you're lapping it up. Like absolute morons. Has he come out to address all this Glovegate and all the conspiracy? No, he hasn't. Do you know why? Because he's a coward. He's an absolute coward. He wants some of it to be true because he doesn't want to rematch Tyson Fury. He wants Fury to somehow get stripped. That's why he's gone as quiet as a dormouse. In fact, the only other time that we've actually seen Wilder is when he's twerking. A grown man, a former heavyweight champion of the world, twerking like that. When he's doing that with his arse, what do you think that he's imagining that's underneath him? Don't take too much of imagination now, does it? His own brother was coming out saying how a doctor performed an autopsy on him. These are the kind of things that's been going on. And you guys have made it worse with all your conspiracy theories. Absolutely ridiculous. So you guys have no room to laugh, mock, cheer, criticize Dillian White or any other fighter on the planet. Your guy quit. He quit. Doesn't matter whether the words Matei came out of his mouth or not. Doesn't matter. When your team throws in the towel, that means you quit. They are responsible for you. It's you as a team. So get back in your box, Wilder fans. You little fanatical Wilder nut huggers who probably put a picture of Deontay Wilder's face on the back of the head of the girlfriend just so they can get it up. Get back in your box and think about Tyson Fury. Think about what Tyson Fury done to Deontay Wilder, because Dillian White, he never got battered and pasted all around that ring like Wilder did. He never hit the canvas several times and had the towel thrown in. No, Dillian White got caught with one shot. And you guys should know better than anybody, because your guy, Wilder, loses every second of every round against every fighter that he ever chooses, but then he pulls out one punch of the bag. That's what Povetkin done. So you guys should be more understanding than anybody. All right? Anyway, that's my thoughts. You drop me yours. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.